So many questions asked on Google by South Africans when it comes to money, and one of the most frequently asked questions is, what is debt review? Joining us in studio to answer this question is Teboho Mafodi, who's an entrepreneur, property investor, financial expert. Teboho, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ma.
Are you well?
I'm good, and you?
Fantastic. All right, so I mean, we cited a couple of them in this top 10, but this one seems to be one that we will look at now. Why do you think South Africans want to know what debt review is?
Because I think I've realized it's mainly based on understanding. Because we've got debt review, we've got debt consolidation, and there's a huge difference.
Okay, so let's start there. What is debt review?
Okay, debt review, it's a process that looks at individuals that are over indebted or individuals that are struggling to manage their finances. Therefore, that leads them to indebtedness. Because you know that in South Africa, I mean, we've got over 10 million. Actually 20 million active credit participants, and 10 million of those are actually struggling.
So how do we get in the situation? How do we put ourselves in that situation in the first place?
Okay, I think mainly it based on budgeting, because we do not budget reality as South Africans. We manage by, you know how we budget. We look at how much I earn, and month end, it means my car takes this much, my house takes this much. Then that's as far as your budget is concerned. You do not look at how much you spend on your groceries. You do not look at how much you spend, whether on your phone, on your petrol, and things like. We don't do actually proper budgeting. That's why you find sometimes, most of the time, by the time a month end comes, you're already struggling with your finances, and you'd use debt to pay another debt. And right now, for people, the one thing that they do not understand is that there's good debt and there's bad debt.
Yes.
So you must be able, as a consumer, to choose which one you think works for you and which one you'd want. But obviously, positively, I think a good debt is the one that you want need.
And an example of good debt would be
a house, for instance, a property. And even in that instant, it would be a house that's an asset that's bringing income other than the one that's a liability. Right now, you'd find, I've realized with consumers, or mainly generally as South Africans, would buy things we do not afford to impress people we do not even like.
That's a big
I love
problem.
that quote. Let's talk about this whole debt consolidation. So
Yeah.
if I'm currently in bad debt and I want to, take steps to get into good debt and fix my credit record and just, fix my financial life, what would be the first step?
Okay, I think the first step would be debt review, debt consolidation. Let's take it as a last option.
Okay.
It actually differs into three categories. One, it's the people that are battling, and two, it's people that need help. Do you understand? And from there, there's the last one being people that are over indebted. It means people that are almost on the judgment stage. So what you'd need to do is that sometimes you'd find whether it's financial companies, or there's even independent debt managers or financial advisors that help with debt review. So it means what they would do, they'd look at the amount of debt that you have, and what do? They'd work out a budget, because right now, according to typically, you need to spend a third of your salary on paying off debt. So what they would typically do, they would put you on debt review. So it means on debt review, they'll list the entire debt that you have, and they'd see how much you're owing, whoever you're owing, and what they'll do, they'll negotiate with that particular creditor on your behalf to say, right now, so and so cannot afford to pay this much. However, they do want to pay you, so we want to negotiate the terms to drop. It's either the installment
Right.
that you need to be paying on that particular debt.
Sure.
And the disadvantage with not effect the disadvantage and the advantage, because the minute you're under debt counseling or debt review, it means you can no longer take on credit.
Yes.
So it's limiting until you resolve your issues.
until you resolve your
All right.
issues. So what they could do, they could actually, you could actually cut your debt up to 50%, because they would negotiate from an interest rate point of view, and they would negotiate on the debt itself.
I'm listening to this entire conversation now. I'm in the car or I'm at my place and I've got problems. I've got this big cloud over my head. Who do I need to call to help me through this process? Who
Okay.
helps me through such?
Okay, I think the most key thing that people need to check their credit report.
And very quickly, where can
yeah.
people do that? Because that's also one of the most asked things
Okay,
on Google.
right now we've got over 14 companies, credit companies that people can actually go and subscribe to in terms of checking their credit report. But the top 5 in the country, it's TransUnion, it's Experian, it's XDS, then it's ClearScore. ClearScore even gives you the points as to what point system are you even sitting on from you individually. And there's different debt companies companies that you do. But what I would say recommend is that people must go to the NCR website, ncr.org.za, to actually, there's a list of them that you need to be able to check. Do not take the first debt cancel company that you come across,
Sure.
because
How do we know which is credible?
others are actually fly by nights.
So
How
you
do
got to
we
be
know?
very careful.
You gotta be very careful. That's why obviously from the National Credit Regulator, they would list the most active ones and they would list the non-active ones.
So you
Yeah.
can almost gauge from that
Yes.
which ones are legitimate.
No, definitely.
Sure.
Yo, Teboho, listen, I feel like you've been of great help as a start to many people listening now. And I mean, we know our situation as far as credit and debt in South Africa. What is your parting sort of word before we let you go on this issue of taking stock of your debt?
Okay, I think my parting word is that people must know there's what we call prescribed debt. So it means your debt has got an expiry date after 2 to 3 years. So because right now, if ever you've had debt and the company has not been following up with you for 2 to 3 years, you must know that whenever they come back, you must tell them that that debt needs to be cancelled. You do no longer have debt. But these companies, because we do not know our rights, they will come and still require that money and only find out they've sold your debt book to somebody else.
Wow.
And you need to be paying them. It's actually illegal. You can actually take it up with the credit ombuds and the National Credit Regulator. Definitely people must get themselves informed out there and they actually be in a position to make better credit decisions.
Listen, I'm thrilled by this conversation because it just makes us more aware and conscientizes us about these issues. If people want to get in touch with you, Teboho, where do we find you?
Okay, they can definitely go to my website. It's tebohomafodi.co.za, or they could find me on social media. It's at Teboho Mafodi on everything.
Do you take questions like, hey, Tebs, I've got 1,000 rand. What must I do with my money?
No.
I hope you're well prepared.
No, definitely. That's what I do for a living. I mean, I've been a victim of such as well. That's why I've made it a mission to say I want to be able to inform the black child and educate the black child so that they better make financial decisions.
Absolutely fantastic. Deb, we'll get you back in the studio. We'll talk about other things because I feel like there's so much that we can suck from you.
Definitely.
And share with the nation. Teboho Mafodi, financial expert. He dabbles in property. He's an entrepreneur and so much more. We appreciate your time, my brother.
No, thank you for having me.
All right. It is 5:30. We'll get into the headlines and then sports. And then we go live on the drive with Questa.